start.
Okay, call to order the Public Safety Committee for November 22nd, 2022. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Scott, you want to lead us?
I'd love to, thank you. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll call roll.
Captain Milan.
Here.
Chief Mall.
Present.
Captain Benfield is not with us today. Committee Member Greenwald.
Here.
Committee Member Rover.
Here.
Committee Member Procuda.
Here.
Vice Chair Hightower.
Present.
And Chair Leffler.
Aye. Okay, we have the special orders of business and presentations. We do have a presentation today. I'm going to turn it over to Nick Rakuda to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce my introduction to our guest speaker is, as the go-to guy charged with maintaining open communications with local, state, and federal authorities, Juan Gonzalez is the SoCalGas Public Affairs Manager for Orange County. As an Orange County native, Juan is well acquainted with Orange County governmental services as he served on the staffs of 2 Orange County Board of Supervisors and for a local state assembly member. Attending Cal Poly Pomona, Juan earned his bachelor's degree in political science. Please welcome Juan Gonzalez.
Mr. Rakuda, Mr. Chair, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Juan Gonzalez, SoCalGas Public Affairs Manager covering South Orange County. It's an honor and a pleasure to be before you, and thank you, Mr. Rakuda, again for reaching out to us and giving us the invitation. So happy to be here. Just briefly, just share, I've been having the fortune to work for this organization now for 8 years, 4 years in the public affairs side, and I cover the area from Lake Forest all the way down to the city of San Clemente, the city of Santa Ana, and unincorporated Orange County. It's funny how time flies, especially when you're having fun, and I continue to share information with my boss because we have an annual review. I tell him I love my job, and I truly love my job. So again, thank you for the invitation. If I may, the first slide. So quickly, before getting into the emergency preparedness side, I just want to bring forward some information of what SoCalGas is all about. First slide. As you may all well know, SoCalGas covers the territory from the northern portion of Fresno, so from Visalia all the way to San Diego Mexican border, excluding San Diego County. San Diego County is managed by our sister utility, San Diego Gas and Electric. So we have close to 6 million meters and about 22 million customers. We have over 100,000 miles of pipeline all over the location, providing the safe, affordable, reliable energy that our customers have been accustomed to. And we're looking to continue to provide those services to our residents. Next slide. I also want to kind of bring you up to speed in relation to what's going on. As all of you are aware, the government, the local government, the state government has, and throughout the nation, we're looking at to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. As such, the gas company is looking in its own efforts to reduce and do our part to do reduction. And part of that, we're looking to transition. Part of our work activities, we're looking to reduce the carbon emissions and going to the more renewables, either from solar, wind, and also we have projects within different entities within our service territory. I can share of a project we're working closely with entities that work with cattle, where we're capturing the manure, breaking that, and putting it into pipeline. We have a project down with a environmental waste hauler out of the Inland Empire where they're capturing or breaking down of their foods and whatnot, green waste, breaking that, capturing the methane, and they're using that to actually power their natural gas vehicles that collect the waste in their communities. So that's a part, again, we're looking to reduce the carbon emissions and we're looking to the future. Another area that is near and dear right now is we're looking at the next evolution of the gas company. We're looking to hydrogen. Hydrogen we see as the next step, a wave of the future where we're able to provide energy for our customers. And in that, there's a lot of conversation going back and forth indicating that, the gas companies is anti-electrification. I want to be very clear with all of you, SoCalGas in no way, shape, or form is against electrification. We see ourselves as an element that needs to be on the table to provide, again, continue to provide energy to our customers. But we're looking to in the areas of transportation, and we're also looking in the areas of the manufacturing where it's very difficult to electrify. And we believe the hydrogen is the next level to continue to provide that. Operations, as mentioned, we have over 100,000 miles of pipeline that we manage every day, 24 hours, 365 throughout the year to make sure that the efficiency, the reliability is there, and our folks take pride in the work that they do. We're heavily also involved in our local communities, working with local nonprofits, CBOs, and providing them the information of what it is with what's going on within our energy sector, and also providing support in some of those areas in need. And lastly, safety is our number one of our pillars of our company. It's embedded in what we do, and safety is part of our culture. We're looking for the safety of our employees, and especially the safety of our customers. And we're looking to continue to provide our services. We've been around for 150 years, and we're looking to the future. Next slide, please. Well, one of the item that Mr. Recruiter had sent us or asked us to participate today is to kind of provide you information in terms of emergency preparedness. As all of you folks are aware, gas can be dangerous and if not taken, shouldn't be taken lightly. But there are elements that are in play within gas that you're able to find or smell. There's an odor that you can capture if you hear it, smell it, see it. It's an item to get away from your house as quickly as you possibly can. Call 911 and seek for support and help, but get out of your house. That's the last thing you want to be is when there's an issue of gas, especially if you hear it, smell it, get out of the location, call 911 or a safe location. Next slide, please. Again, as I just mentioned, the look, listen, smell, very important elements that everybody within your residents and all around across our service territory that we try to share and provide them that information. Look, listen, and smell. You smell it, you listen to it, a little hissing, and if you're seeing it, get out of the area and be at a safe location and call for assistance through 911. Next slide. There's a slight little video I just want to share with you.
Dan thinks he's a chef. I'm not so sure about that. When he was prepping his latest experiment, I noticed a funny smell near the stove. I suspected a natural gas leak. We went outside and called SoCal Gas. They confirmed we did the right thing by leaving immediately. A SoCal Gas technician showed up quickly and figured out what was going on. We'll get the stove fixed tomorrow. Sorry, Dan. Tonight it's takeout.
Look, listen, smell. Your safety matters.
Truly, safety does matter. It's very important to us. So again, those elements, look, listen, and smell. If you smell gas, get out of the area, go to a safe location, call for help, call 911. Next slide, please.
Stuck.
One other area that is also very important, and unfortunately it happens more than we like it to occur, especially in the area of construction and or individuals looking to plant something behind their backyard. They're doing construction. We encourage everybody, if you're doing anything in your backyard, please call 811 to mark any linings of what may be underneath your ground. It could be a water line, it could be a gas line, forbid, or even an electrical line that's going on. And if you're looking to plant a tree or anything as such, before you do any activity within your area, please call 811. It's at no cost, and you're able to be safe to be aware that you're not going to put yourself in an awkward situation or a bad situation. If that's all, that's also very important. It is the law. You must call 811 before you dig. So we want to kind of continue passing that message along. Another short little video.
This is Southern California, creative capital of the world. Look at your spectacular outdoor projects, from crafty landscaping to true do-it-yourself masterpieces. What do they have in common? They all started by contacting 811. SoCal Gas reminds you, contact 811 2 business days before you dig so you can have your natural gas lines marked. Because every masterpiece should start with safety.
Call before you dig. Next slide, please. So I think per mentioned, part of the discussion today is emergency preparedness. I think my counterpart, Mrs. Dwayne Cava, I think last month was here before you, kind of shared some information. Most of the information I think you've already heard, but safety, again, we're safety number one concern for all of our constituents, your residents, to be able to have a plan in play. As you all know, we're in a territory, an area where we're prone for earthquakes. Right now, I think in your particular area, unfortunately, Hillside, fire season, I just kind of overheard the discussion that fire season isn't playing out. It's something that goes year-round, unfortunately. And then within that, fires, there's also a notion of if heavy rains come through and mudslides. So that's also an area that potentially can impact. And obviously, as you know, a lot of our infrastructure is underground. So any kind of exposure, we're always looking at and maintaining and trying to figure out what's taking place within the area. One of the areas we're looking to provide information is know where your meter is at. For those homeowners, they'll have an idea where your meter is at. So in case of an emergency, you're able to immediately shut it down. But again, the big key is you smell it, you hear it, and you're seeing it. Other than that, we don't advise anybody to touch your meter. Let it be. Our systems and our implementation so that we're able to control it. So we ask that only if you see it, smell it, hear it, shut it off, turn the valve, and have a wrench near your location in case of an emergency that you're quickly able to turn off your gas meter. The other item, in case, again, mentioning earthquakes, make sure within your house that you have a strap around your heater in case if there's an earthquake, if there's a shift or anything, that it's attached so that it won't move or have minimal movement in case of an earthquake. Check your devices from smoke and carbon monoxide inside your home. I believe that is a law now that you must have those in play at all homes and locations. So make sure, I think you're scheduled to review them every year and make sure that they have batteries for your carbon monoxides and your smoke detectors are working, functioning correctly. And also, I think there was a discussion from the last visitation about automatic shutoff valves. Similar to SDG&E, SoCal Gas does not recommend, does not promote the location of automatic shutoff valves to your meter. That's ultimately a decision made by the homeowner or the property owner. We don't make any kind of recommendations. It's ultimately up to the homeowner to do. Again, as mentioned earlier, we feel pretty secure and safe that if in case of an emergency, our system is set up that we're able to control it. And again, unless you hear it, listen to it, smell it, and mess with the meter. But if not, do not touch it under any circumstance. And I think that there's a mention there, shut-off valves on your appliances. If that's something you individuals care to do, homeowners, hire a third-party entity, a licensed plumber, to do that work. SoCal Gas does not do that. So, check your ventilation systems for proper ventilation for your furnaces and your water heaters. You don't want to be having that flow in order to avoid any situation to take place inside your home. Very important also, don't smoke in your natural gas systems. The last thing you want to do is cause an explosion. And as mentioned, have an evacuation plan in play in case of an emergency. Generally, typically it's about 72 hours, but we recommend that if you can more. Typically in emergencies, the focus will be in the area that's most being impacted. And not only you have to take it for your well-being, but your family and also the pets. It's very important to have those items taken care of, water, food, and pet food for your animals. So again, I think the standard norm is 72 hours for any kind of emergency to take place. The information that I just mentioned about preparedness, I think in discussion was, well, Juan, I smelled the gas and I shut it off. How quickly can you get back to us to fix it, to turn on the gas? And it's going to be dependent on how big the emergency is. I think our biggest focus will be at locations where the most impact is. If you shut down your gas, it may take some time in order for us to turn it back on. Again, the system will be in play where we'll be at the area where there's the most need, and we'll start generally from the point of impact to the other locations. So again, don't touch your meter unless you really, really have to. But if there's nothing going on, it should be safe and our systems should be implemented. As mentioned, I think I'm going a little ahead, the information of the earthquake valves. SoCal Gas, again, does not promote it. It's ultimately up to the homeowner. Next slide. And if in fact you do shut down your gas, please do not, under any circumstance, reignite your pilots on your own. Let the professionals do it. Call our 800 number, 800-427-2200, in order for that item to be taken care of. Under no circumstance should you, once you shut off your meter for any particular kind of emergency, do not try to light your pilots on your own. Please call us. Let the professionals take care of it. Next slide. And one small quick video.
You never want to wake up to an earthquake, but at least we were prepared.
We put together a kit of emergency supplies, like water, food, and first aid.
And we had a professional secure our water heater.
We also put the proper wrench near our natural gas meter shutoff, so we always know where it is.
It was a relief to see that Bill and Maria were also safe. We look after each other. They're not just our neighbors, they're friends.
Be prepared. Your safety matters.
Yeah, as part of the presentation, that's the general information that we wanted to share with you. If I may leave you with a couple of things. Number one is we continue to encourage all of our customers, if at any point there's a particular question, feel free to contact our 800 number for any information. From the last session, if I recall, there was a question involving our advanced meter, if we could automatically shut it down from a remote location. The answer is no, we can't. I don't have the opportunity to just be behind a computer and shut your gas down. Someone physically needs to be at the location in order to shut down your gas. One of the advances that advanced meter has been able to relay to our system is that if we see a particular spike in a general location, we're able to send a technician immediately to figure out what's been going on. And it's occurred that individuals, have a barbecue the night before something happens and they go on a trip, and we can see those extreme spikes that it's not normal. And as such, we're able to determine, well, there's this item is taking place, that's not the normal flow of gas, send out a technician. And technicians will be out in the area to figure out what's going on and shut down gas if required. And once the homeowners come home, why is there no gas? Gas company in general will leave a note to let them know this is what happened. The other item that I want to share is to continue to seek for your participation, especially what's taking place throughout the state. As mentioned, there is a full motion by the state to go all electric. But one of the areas that we ask is that folks engage and be informed in terms of allowing for all sectors of energy to be looked upon, from solar, renewable gas, and in the near future, hydrogen. We believe that these items should be at a matter of decisions that customers make and not a mandate by the state. And I think hopefully all of you agree, the more option we have, the better we're off, and especially in cases of emergency. So with that, I thank you again. I wish all of you happy holidays and happy Thanksgiving, and I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
I took the okay. Gotta remember to turn the microphone on. Anyway, I took the opportunity to look at my gas bill, and it indicated if you wanted to know where the pipelines are in town, to take a look at them. They got these maps, and it shows that the transmission lines, going through the town. Obviously, if one of those is hit, it's going to be a big mess too. But they're located on some interesting little areas here, like El Camino Real, and it crosses the freeway and goes up. But you got to have that distribution in there, otherwise there's no gas, right? Maintenance, long-term maintenance for those gas lines, is that how long do those usually last before they have to be replaced?
Great question, sir. So part of our CPUC requirements, we're scheduled to check and review those pipelines throughout our service territory every 7 years. And essentially we do what's called a pig run. And a pig, and oh my gosh, I should know this, but it's going to take me a minute. But essentially we run a piece of mechanism through the pipeline that checks for any anomalies. And if there's any anomaly, any movement within that pipe, we immediately shut down a portion of the line and be able to do what we need to do to replace it. But yeah, CPUC and federal mandates require us to do a thorough analysis of our pipeline throughout our service territory. That usually takes place every 7 years. Per your question, some of those locations are in areas where there's a lot of traffic flow at this time. As you know, I think I shared with you, the company has been around over 150 years, and when some of these transmission lines and distribution lines were put in the different locations, the city was not what it is now. So I think a lot of things have changed. We are currently reviewing, and we have pretty much time data that we're looking to find out if there's a drop in pressure, that we have systems in play that can isolate a particular line so there's no flow of gas. And this also kind of came into play, if you remember, the unfortunate situation that took place up in San Bruno. Those requirements were put in play, and part of it is for safety. That if there's any situation where there's a drop in pressure, the line can be automatically shut down, isolated, so that there's no flow of gas or whatever is in that will just blow, but it won't be continuous flow of gas that we aren't able to stop, or it takes a long time. But to your question, generally, every 7 years our pipelines are inspected, and that is reported back to the CPUC and the federal government.
Do you have a feel for mean time to failure on those pipelines?
Sir,
what's the life expectancy?
To my knowledge, and I don't want to bring incorrect information, I know that we have pipeline that's been underground for over 40 years and it still functions properly.
Yeah.
We haven't had any issues. And again, we run those hydro tests every so often to make sure. We run that PIG, pipeline inspection gauge, that's what we call it, pipeline inspection gauge, the PIG, that runs through the system, and if there's any anomaly or any item, we'll immediately address it. And if it's an area that we need to replace, we'll literally pull permits from the city and cut the area, shut down the line first, cut the area, put in a new pipe, and put it back to work as quickly as we possibly can.
Good job. Thank you.
Mike,
Yeah, I was actually invited out to watch a crew run the pig. And,
So you know what we're talking about, big piece of equipment.
it's a huge piece of equipment, but the flip side is it shuts down a lane or two of traffic. And do we have pipelines right under El Camino? Yeah.
There it is.
So that could present an issue. But when you talk about electrification, I really wonder why you and other industries don't push back harder on this, because the business I'm in, I deal with a lot of people that cook. And restaurants run on gas. They don't want to cook with electricity. So I just throw that out there. I mean, you have a lot of support in places you probably might not even know you have.
So appreciate the comments here. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, we try to work with, again, for us, it's just about informing. Ultimately, the decision making comes from the higher ups, but for us, it's just trying to get people aware of what's taking place. And unfortunately, a lot of the information comes at you're behind the wheel, and it's past the time that you were able to engage. And by that time, things become long. Like, I didn't know that. So what we try to do is try to inform them, make them engaged, and be able to speak to those folks that make the decisions. To like, hey, this is what we want. Look at options.
Lastly, SoCalGas has a foundation. And how does someone access that foundation and see what their parameters are for giving?
Yes, sir. So SoCalGas, as you mentioned, has a foundation. We generally give out grants sometime in the month of March. That's something that I'd be more than happy to share with you, with your committee, where people can check online of different grant opportunities. And that generally takes place in the month of March.
I'd appreciate that.
Not a problem. Happy to do that, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I can't imagine cooking with electricity all the time.
No.
So I hope we keep gas for a while. My one question was, so you actually share with SDG&E gas service, the city of San Clemente?
I believe in, please don't quote me, SDG&E is only on the electric side. SoCalGas is the only provider of natural gas. SDG&E is only electric.
Okay.
I think beyond the San Clemente border going into San Diego County, there it's gas and electricity.
Oh.
For us, we're just in the natural gas business.
Okay, so you guys are all for all of San Clemente then?
Yes, correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is just the 811, is that like statewide? Anybody that lives, that they call 811, they get whoever gas company serves them, is that right?
Correct. Well, again, from Visalia all the way to San Diego,
Right.
Mexican border, we're the only game in town.
Okay. All right.
But the 811 number is independent entity that comes and marks your lines to make sure that if you're doing any work activity, any kind of construction or anything within your household, that you're not going to put yourself in a position where you're going to hit a utility line.
Cool.
May that be cable, water, gas, electric.
Charlie?
Yeah. Yeah, Juan, thank you for coming today. I had a very interesting presentation. One comment, one question. The comment on pigs, I forget what you called it, but
Pipeline inspection gauge.
yeah, I quickly looked it up here on Wikipedia. They said in the old days what they did was to clean pipes, they would take bales of hay and push them through the pipe and then make a squealing sound like a pig. And that might
that might have
I
been me.
don't know if that's true or not.
I would have, that's a great, I will look that up, sir. I will look that up. I don't, that's a great point. I'll look it up.
I like your acronym, Dave. It's more scientific. But my question, does your company have any incentives for its customers for gas heating units in houses and water heaters and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir. So SoCal Gas provides services through our CARE program, California Alternate Rates for Energy, and that is primarily based on income, sir. If depending on how many people live in a household and how much money they make, there's opportunities to be able to get items at a discounted price. Additionally, if there's someone within the home who has a medical condition, we can use medical baseline, which essentially provides additional energy to that particular household at a lower rate. So, and I think for that one, you have to submit information either online or we have pamphlets available. Again, if the committee would like, I can bring those here to the city that people can sign up. And again, that is all based on need, on how much money you're making, federal regulation. So yeah, we have that available to CARE program.
Thank you.
Scott?
I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Gonzalez.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, the one last thing I just thought of, Chief Mall, so I assume the fire department in your emergency plan has some kind of special liaison with the gas company that during an emergency, but you're in close communications with them, is that?
Yeah, that's right. We work with the gas company frequently on pretty much every incident. We'll tie in with them, and then we have our risk reduction people that work with them outside of an incident itself. But yeah,
we're connected on the hip, especially in emergencies. Yeah, and there's an item, a fire or anything takes place, we're sometimes some of the first to respond. So obviously the safety of our fire, if they have firefighters to have to go in, that we shut down the gas if there's something going on within the area. So yeah, we're pretty much tied at the hip in emergencies. And fire and police.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any further questions we have? Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. It was a great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. And again, happy holidays. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the meeting of October 25th? Any questions or comments on those minutes, I'm sorry?
I move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0.
One abstention.
Oh.
I wasn't here.
Oh, okay, that would be 4 and 1 abstention. Okay, oral and written communications. Mr. Atamian, have any written communications?
We have not received any communication from the public.
Very good. Reviews and recommendations?
There are none for this meeting. I do want to let the committee know that starting at the January meeting of 2023, we will be beginning to provide performance measures for various public safety groups that the committee is charged with reviewing. After COVID, there was a backlog of performance measures that needed to be done. The city has just gone through a process of getting up to date on those, and so we will provide the most recent, probably two quarters worth. And in the past, what we had done to make this a bit more manageable, instead of giving all of the performance measures all in the same meeting, was to break it up into groups such as marine safety and OCFA, and then the next meeting would be like OCSD and park rangers, and so on, so that every quarter you're reviewing performance measures at each meeting, just to make it a bit more efficient for the committee's time. And that will start in January.
And is Care Ambulance, we do that as part of OCFA? Is that how we group that one?
We can do those two together. CARE has their own performance measures, and we'll provide those numbers.
Okay, for the benefit of the new members, that's actually a big task that we have, is reviewing the performance measures of our public safety entities, and we haven't done it for a while for a few reasons, but that will be a big part of actually of our work plan once that gets implemented. Okay, any new business?
Question, Adam, I've been reviewing the performance parameters as we've gone along here, and is this something new that you're proposing, or will it basically be the same format that we've seen in the past for performance measures for marine safety, fire, park rangers, and code enforcement?
Yes, so the performance measures that you will receive are going to be those as reported for the annual budget in the city. Those are set and each year during the fiscal budget process. They tend to remain the same over time, but this year there would be an opportunity for the Public Safety Committee to weigh in on the things that are actually reported, and you provide feedback for each of the division staff to potentially modify what they're reporting to the council to make the information more valuable. But we'll be reporting what has been historically reported on. So no, there won't be any changes. I will say in the past, the committee has requested, I'll say more information on particular activities. OCFA, OCSD were good examples of that, where the performance measures address certain aspects of those agencies' work, but it didn't necessarily answer all of the questions that one would have about what's actually being done here. A better breakdown of the types of calls for service, things like that. That can be requested, but if it's going to require an extensive amount of staff time to create something new, we would need to go to the council. However, most of this additional information would be stuff that the public safety agencies and divisions within the city would typically have anyways, that would provide some other formats. For example, OCSD gives an annual update on crime statistics, and that would amplify the information in their performance measures. So asking for that additional information doesn't really take much more time, since they do that anyways.
There's one anomaly now is the sheriffs have gone to the federal reporting, and it's a different reporting period than what they've used before for the fiscal year. So it's going to take some dragging that out to make it conform to like our yearly. But Captain Bedfield says that's not going to be a huge issue. But that is going to be one change. It's going to be a little off skew than for OCFA and park rangers and all that. But we'll just figure that when the time comes. So, okay. Any other questions on that?
The Orange County Fire Authority, the performance measures that you've been providing the city basically haven't changed for almost 2 decades. And I'm just wondering if maybe this is an opportunity to take a look at them again and see if there's anything in there that you would want to change or add. Certainly things have changed, technology's changed, financing has changed, all these staffing, things like that. You might want to think about that. I know it's bigger than the city of San Clemente, and it would have to be coordinated throughout the district, but you might want to take a look at that though, Chief.
Definitely, yeah. It's always good to look at how we're looking at things, so I have that in my notes right here.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay, unfinished business, we have evaluate, this is from the last meeting, evaluate ordinance concerning street side soliciting. And did you say, Adam, that email from Captain Benfield is in our packet somewhere?
Yeah, it is, under the first item in the packet, it's Exhibit 1. For the record, Captain Benfield emailed information requested at the last meeting related to additional sections of municipal codes that the sheriffs work with in other jurisdictions, in addition to the ordinances that were passed by Aliso Viejo and Lake Forest to address what we're calling street side soliciting. But this would be people soliciting donations in the public right of way, in medians, things of that nature. So that information is Exhibit 1, and then Exhibit 2 and 3 are the Aliso Viejo and Lake Forest ordinances, which we talked about last time. And if I could, I'd just like to set this up for the committee's consideration. So what we did last time was discuss this topic generally. There was some additional information requested from Captain Benfield, which he has provided. He did state that he is supportive of this type of ordinance. It's something that is enforceable. At this point, we've provided the additional information the committee sought at the last meeting, and staff is ready to get the committee's direction on providing a recommendation to the city council on whether they believe that this would be something that would benefit public safety services in the city, and then further clarification on direction as far as which type of language the committee prefers. With that information, city staff can go to the council with a report to request their initiation of an ordinance, give them a little bit of information about what the ordinance is likely to look like when and if the council would approve such an initiation. Staff would then just be able to go back to the council with a final ordinance, rather than coming back here at a time to start to do some wordsmithing, so to speak.
Yeah, just to start the discussion, when we discussed it last time, I think the ordinance is beneficial, and I think Captain Benfield has chimed in on that. And it's kind of best practices in cities. Most cities have it, and I think, and this is also better for the newer members we've had or recommended ordinances in the past, and the way we've generally done it is let staff kind of hammer it out, the language with the city attorney, and then whatever entity, and this entity would be Captain Benfield, would be able to chime in on that, and they would come up with a good solid ordinance that the city attorney blesses, and then they just pass it on to the council, and they can, do they have any suggestions after that, that's up to them. But it's always worked out pretty well. I think they hammered out some really good wording on our ordinances in the past, and we haven't had any issues. So, any other discussion?
God.
I totally agree, but I think that because we've got Laguna Niguel, Laguna Hills, we've got all these different things, and they're not the same to San Clemente. Captain Benfield or Chief Benfield to work with you and staff, and here's what he wants in there, draft it and get it done.
Are we, so where do we fall on this? Are we making a recommendation as to a model and an outline, or are we just recommending that that we make an ordinance?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're recommending that an ordinance is recommended, and that we're passing it to staff, city attorney, and Captain Benfield to hammer out the specific wording of the ordinance.
Gotcha. Do we recommend any of these models, like the Laguna Niguel model, the Laguna Hills, or the Lake Forest?
I think we looked at one that seemed better than the others, but I don't know that one specifically, we could probably use several of them, and I think that's probably what Captain Benfield would do, is go, well, this is good on this is good, from an enforcement standpoint.
Yeah.
And then the city attorney would say, yeah, I think we can do this, there's nothing illegal about it, that's kind of how it works.
Gotcha.
Since they're gonna be enforcing it, obviously OCSD has a big say
Sure.
in what the wording is. So, they all look good, but I think we should give them the latitude to kind of figure out. If there's something you like about something specifically in your wording, we can certainly pass that on to staff. I mean, if you see something you really like.
No, I know I requested additional information from Captain Benfield last meeting as to enforceability, efficacy, and he provided that, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the committee's cooperation with my request. So at this point, it sounds like any of these are enforceable, any of these get the job done, they meet the spirit of the law. I have a personal preference here, but I'm not a law enforcement officer, so maybe I let that go to the.
No, I think you should share that. I think that's important.
I think the Laguna Niguel model is probably the one that I draw to because it seems like it's the most enforceable and the least granular, and it leaves the most ability for that deputy who's standing there looking at that person to have that discretion to enforce or educate, to apply the law in an appropriate scale manner.
And I think when we looked at it last time, I think I made kind of the same comment. If I was going to have to pick one, I thought that was the best worded, and we can certainly pass that on to staff if that's kind of what we're looking at. We like that wording, and then it still is with you, Benfield, and the city attorney. But
Can we make a motion?
I have a comment.
oh, sure.
Yeah, from a legal standpoint, I've looked through these, any of these things seem to be reasonable, but let's take a minute. Who are we really targeting with this law? Who is it that's out there on the medians soliciting or trying to clean your windshield or whatever? I think this is really targeting, by and large, homeless individuals. So I think if we do recommend this, we should remember the impact it's going to have on these people in the city.
Well, I don't want to use the word targeting whatsoever. I mean, and from my experience, there are probably some homeless people that are partaking in this, but there's also some professional criminals who come into the area who are not homeless, who also participate in this also. It's not targeting, it's a public safety issue, and the fact is they can still basically panhandle as long as they're not interrupting traffic or stepping into traffic, causing a public safety issue. So they still have the right to do that. It's just they have to do it in a safe manner. That's all. So that's all I've got to say.
And it's also for their safety, okay? We're not targeting them, we're trying to protect them. All right, they're not gonna get hit by a car that runs up on the median, or they're not gonna be out in traffic and get hit. I mean, to me, this is protection for everybody.
And from my experience, discretion, Scott used the exact word. I don't think that, at least in my experience, and I had a lot of it, going out and grabbing something for panhandling and taking 4 hours to take them to jail or do whatever is not what you want to do. But at least this way, if there is an issue, you can legally approach them and say, gee, could you step out over there and not, and not bother traffic, and then you're gone. That's really, I can tell you how it usually happens. And I don't think it's going to be that invasive. I really don't. It's just a good tool for officers to have in case they see an issue and they want to address it. And that's that.
Okay, I appreciate expounding on that from a law enforcement point of view. And I'm sure Captain Benfield would operate in the manner that you're talking about. Yeah.
I agree. Any further comment?
Now, I'd like to move that we forward the Laguna Niguel model as a starting point, and staff, city attorney, and Captain Benfield work together to craft a motion that will encompass everything in our city and the issues that we have, and then forward that to council.
Can I make an amendment to that?
A friendly amendment.
Yes.
Yes.
That we don't discard the other examples,
No, absolutely.
all right?
I think, Mike, as a starting point, and wording is good, but use whatever resource you need, whatever part of any of them,
Right.
even things that might not even be in any of the other ones, if we can improve on them.
So we'll change that to using, looking at the Blue and Miguel model and taking any other parts from the other models to make it, to custom tailor to San Clemente.
Good job.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Very good, okay. Now, we have exhibits on the Public Safety Committee Annual Work Plan. That's under Exhibit 1, 2, and 3.
What page is it?
It's the red tab.
No.
It's after
It's item two.
after the green items there.
Item two.
It's looking like it starts with this red tab.
Got it, okay.
Second item.
So the second item
This is after second.
in the agenda packet relates to the city council's approval of the public safety committee's work plan. And we included the staff report and the approved work plan in this agenda. And at this point, I believe that the subcommittees have been, the working groups have been identified. So this is an opportunity to go through each of these items, give updates on their status, and request information from staff to assist in the development of these work plan projects.
Right, so the work plan is, and the budget on that has been approved, right? There's been the final reading on that, and it's all done?
Yes, the one thing that needs, where there was budget identified, but it will need to go back to council to confirm, is the Neighborhood Watch Program. It includes an identification of city staff that will assist in facilitating communications, mostly with the Neighborhood Watch Program. That city staff person needs to be identified and provided to council's consideration. There's some funding that was requested by the committee, and I believe it's $10,000 per year. That's a large enough portion of somebody's time that it's not entirely clear who's the best person in city staff to do this, or exactly what the tasks are. So we'll want the committee to kind of dial that in, and then once that's all figured out, we can go to the council and get blessing for that. Otherwise, the funding, the only other funding that was requested was for the human trafficking project, and that funding was secured because the details of what that money would be used for were identified.
Okay, so that's the only open budgetary item is on the Neighborhood Watch, everything else was approved?
Yeah.
It looks like on page 2 of this thing, it's 15,000.
Yeah, so thank you. It was 10,000 in previous years. It was an estimated budget, and it was bumped up this last year to 15,000. I think cover a bit more, we'll call it opportunities for city staff to engage on this project.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting another $10,000 for a city staff support?
No, 15,000, I believe would cover what the committee was looking at. For
It went up
staff
from
support.
10,000 to 15,000. I think our previous one was 10,000, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Gotcha.
Well, one council person had questions about it, wanted us to go back and instead of just having a blank check, justify it, which is, we will definitely work on that. Anybody else have any questions?
Is there any other budget in for Neighborhood Watch? Because if we're gonna have a successful Neighborhood Watch program, who's gonna provide the signage for the neighborhoods? Who's going to do the installation of the signs? If they are on a city post or pole, they probably have to be installed by a city worker or a licensed contractor that's approved by the city. And if we want to get people involved in the neighborhood watch, they're going to say, we have to pay for the signs, or is the city going to provide signs and the installation?
So there's a number of ways that items are attached to city facilities. In some respects, city signage would be something that the city would pay for and install. However, there are examples of times where an HOA will want to put up certain signs utilizing a city's light post or something, and they can apply for an encroachment permit. If they qualify, it could be a no-fee permit, and then they could hire a contractor or somebody to install it. And it would be outside of the city's purview in an emergency or a situation where maybe that the light post gets decommissioned. Our encroachment permit would allow for the city to remove the sign, but otherwise we would work with the HOAs or those kinds of community groups to assist them in putting up things that they want. That issue, I don't remember being discussed previously about the Neighborhood Watch program. That could be something that is investigated this year. If these signs are most appropriate to be created and installed by the city, we could just go back to the city council with a request for that.
Thank you.
Did you have something?
No.
Oh, you both have any of the work plan, any questions on the work plan, the budgeting? Anything?
The only thing that I've got is that, back to the committee assignments on that, make sure that we're all together on it.
Okay, want me to review these real quick and we'll see if everybody's in agreement with them before they know? Okay, I've got disaster communications and preparedness. I have Nick and Charlie. That seem right?
Yep.
Homelessness, I have myself and Mike. Legislation and review, I've got myself and Scott. Statistical information review, I have Nick and Scott. Neighborhood watch, I have myself and Mike. Technology review, I have Nick and Charlie. Human trafficking, I have myself and Mike. And traffic and e-bike safety, I have Charlie and Scott.
How about urgent matters? Is that a committee assignment or just as needed?
I think that's as needed, and anybody can, if we have an urgent matter that we're bringing forward, we need to form a subcommittee, we could do that.
You know, I don't think a subcommittee is necessary. It's going to be on the agenda, on every agenda, so it can be discussed. It will have been duly noticed, and so anybody can bring up an issue, allow the committee to talk about it, and at that moment in time, forward a recommendation to council.
Yeah, I think we sent a memo not that long ago
Yeah.
that came out, just as an urgent matter. We just sent a memo, we didn't even have to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, the only, the idea was for that work plan project to provide an opportunity to quickly get matters of urgency with the council. I would assume that the Public Safety Committee, has their ears to the ground and everybody's kind of keeping their eyes out for things that may impact public safety and San Clemente. A working group would just be duplicating efforts.
Right.
Hey, Rick, you went fast in a different order than I had it in my book here. Could you repeat statistical information review?
I have Nick and Scott.
Nick and Scott, okay. And the other one I did get, human trafficking,
I have myself and Mike.
Rick and Mike, okay. And, okay. I got the rest of them, thank you.
Sure. Anything else before we move on to report?
Adam, do we know when we're going to have a neighborhood watch section on the website?
It is up and live.
It is.
Yeah.
There we go.
And so you can actually hit the button and.
You can submit forms to identify yourself as an existing block captain. You can volunteer to be a block captain, or you can just volunteer to join a neighborhood watch group.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We need to know the
There's
recipients
There you go.
of those emails and applications. That's it.
Like right there.
Yeah, on that topic, the city's website will forward those applications. And one question that's come up is who should be receiving those emails?
Well, I'd like to get a copy and copy to Mike, and I'd also like Lisa at OCSD. So she's our person at OCSD that's supposed to be helping us with this, so.
Okay, yeah, we can forward emails with no problem. We just want to make sure that there will be a response. City staff's not aware of who's doing what.
No, for now, we can get those and we can respond.
Okay.
One other thing, Adam, I gotta tell you, this is a great map of the HOAs. I don't know who put it together, but it's fabulous.
Well, we put it together.
Okay.
With a city map dude.
Yeah, we did a great job. But
That is his official title.
when I printed it, you won't print the whole thing. There's no way I can get a copy of it that's full, and then I can start marking off and making notes and phone numbers for all the HOAs.
Yeah, I believe that that version of the map is a reduction of the 11 by 18 as it was initially created. So we can print those out and deliver them to you.
Great, thank you.
I'd like if you could get like a wall-size one for Mike's condo, and just so he can really visualize the whole thing.
I want to be able to make notes on it, what days their meetings are, and who their president is and who their property management company is.
Yeah,
So that I can
in fact, if you'd like, we could blow it up even larger and create smaller pages like a Thomas guide
Great.
would have.
Because I want to start attending all their meetings until we get them all up and running. Thank you.
From the map dude.
The map dude. Who's not even working for the city anymore. He's somebody else's dude now. Okay, so we're gonna have, let's see, we have the city council staff report on the work plan. So now we're gonna go into our updates here. Reports, so communications and disaster preparedness.
Well,
and Charlie?
I can throw a little bit there. Charlie, I want to. You can sit down with Charlie.
I will.
I don't know if you saw that, but I get to it. Anyway, let's see what's happening here. The disaster preparedness. I invited Juan Gonzalez today from the Southern California Gas. I've scheduled a meeting from the Tri-Cities CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, which includes the San Clemente CERT for next meeting in January. Lynn Mata, who now works for Jacob Green and Associates, which is our consultant for that, jumped on that and says, you bet. That'll be a great sales item in recruitment for Neighborhood Watch.
Definitely, CERT is incredible program.
And we need to know more about that and how we can assist them.
I know you made a site survey for that food thing. Could you update us on that?
Did. Abound Food Care, maybe just a short briefing, received a grant from the Orange County Board of Supervisors a year or so ago for a couple $1 million to start a program where they would decentralize cargo container frozen food that would be prepared in response to a state law that now requires grocery stores and food producers not to throw excess food into the landfill. So this particular agency or company is working with the food producers and educational programs like OCC, Orange Coast College, and their culinary arts to produce individual food meals based on all this food that's coming in. It originally started at food insecurity for the homeless and the senior citizens and low-income families, but there's a lot of excess too. The way the board of supervisors wanted to throw money at is food insecurity for the general mass of folks, so that when the logistics of getting food to grocery stores breaks down at the potential of a major disaster, how do you feed the rest of the world here? And there was a solution, a fix that was suggested, and that's what we're doing. I reached out to them, the Bound Food Care folks, and said, are you interested? And they came and did a presentation last year, or earlier this year. And it was fairly successful, and we put together a motion to send to the city council to say, hey, can we invite them so that we can consider them to use city property to house this frozen food container and whatever, because they were going to decentralize this and probably in each one of the supervisory districts in 5 locations. Okay, so the city council said, after a couple months, said, you bet, sure. Okay. So I got back to Mike Laracus, who's the head of the Bound Food Care, and we set up a site survey down at the city yards to locate a site that was suitable for placement of this cargo container. This cargo container is self-sufficient with solar, keep the individual food that is vacuum sealed, thousands of meals, frozen for extended period of time. Background a little bit more with the food is that about every 8 months or so the food would be rotated and new stock would be in, so it wouldn't be just old freezer and stuff when you really need it, and stuff would be 5-10 years old. No, it's updated all the time. But down at we'll go back to the site survey. We found a suitable site down at the city yards, and I walked it with the Bound Food Care folks and with Kyle Kroger, who's our Public Works Director, and everybody seems to be happy with that. So now the situation where it stands right now is that it said you're invited, and it's up to them to accept or not accept. Okay, so it's a green light on the gatekeeper. It's up to them to say, yeah, we like your site, whatever. And they're developing their program, so it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, there you go. On that particular
On that subject, now on to the next subject.
Gee. Yeah, I've got it bounced all over the place, it seems. Let's see. I know there was something else here that I wanted to do, but I read a article or a email that was sent out by Assemblywoman Lori Davies, and it was and I had to call their office to say, okay, what's this about? Indicated $16.9 million from the state budget to the Orange County Fire Authority to purchase new firefighting equipment and get additional emergency command center up and running.
Chief?
What do you think? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
The assembly person, Lori Davies, okay, she secured almost $17 million out of the state budget to help the fire authority purchase new firefighting equipment and get additional emergency command center up and running. You know anything about that one?
Yes, so that is for, as far as I know, it's with Senator Mann as well. So they have secured $17 million for a new facility to house our hand crew, as well as make it basically a large facility to house the whole hand crew, all of our heavy equipment, things like that. So we're trying to evaluate different locations, South County, to put that. But yes, that was a really big benefit that will be helping the agency for sure.
Yeah, emergency command center. You know, you have a centralized command center at this point. You control one, I guess. That's the sheriff's department thing.
You know, we have an emergency command center at our headquarters building in Irvine. That's where all of our dispatching and our emergency command work out of. From my understanding, the funding that was secured was specifically for housing the hand crew and that kind of a facility.
Okay.
But I can follow up to see if there was any other.
I was gonna ask them. They said they'd get back to me with some more information because they weren't quite sure what that was specifics on the thing. But decentralizing the command centers, if one crashes, if your command center crashes, you know, you'll have to operate out of your rig, basically, right?
Correct, yeah, we have our command center is pretty robust, honestly. It's built for pretty big disasters to be able to withstand that. But in the event that we lose our command center, we have decentralized command centers within all of the divisions that we essentially run command centers out of. So, for instance, for here, it'd be right up the street here at Station 58. And so within the entire agency throughout the county, there's decentralized command centers.
Got it. Going back to the food insecurity.
Sure.
Assemblywoman Davies on her email indicated the California delegation is supporting a budget to ask for $35 million for Orange County food banks to help with food insecurity issues some residents are facing with skyrocketing inflation. So I'm working on that's disaster preparedness end of it too. It's saying, and they were not the staff at her local office was not aware of this other stuff, so it might be an interesting thing with them.
Person I want to contact is Lisa Beal, is her chief of staff.
Okay.
If anybody should know about these things, it should be her. I mean, I know there's a lot of staff and they're not aware of everything's going on, but she stays up on it, I think.
Yeah, I talked to Ann Figueroa, who's the district manager.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, she's anyway. More to come on that. Disaster preparedness is another issue with the fire department.
Oh.
You ready?
I'm listening.
Sorry. November 3rd, the OCFA put out a press release. Orange County Fire Authority Board of Directors approved new Firehawk helicopters.
Oh, nice.
And yet, how will that help emergency preparedness and except and the largest scope of
Great. So, so for our air operations program with the OCFA, for a long time we've worked with, we've had old Super Huey helicopters, if you know, from Vietnam War era, actually. So we've been working with those. That got the program going. We ended up getting what are known as 412 helicopters, much better helicopter in 2008. And so the Super Hueys have served their purpose, but they were starting to have some issues that were going to cause some safety concerns. So we took those out of service, and we've been working to work towards the approval and the purchase of 2 new Black Hawk. They're called Firehawk S70M. You've probably seen them on all the fires. Every agency pretty much throughout California now is working with these. They're a much larger helicopter. Specific to firefighting, they're incredible. They have built what we can drop water-wise from like 300 gallons now to 1,000 gallons per drop, so that part's incredible. But for major emergency preparedness as well, they're much bigger inside. They go from comfortably maybe sitting 4 or 5 people or evacuating a few people at a time to being large enough that you could evacuate a great deal of people. I mean, up to probably 12 people real easily. So in that sense, they've been used, I mean, the Coast Guard they're used to move people, which is a really good thing for us. So that was a big purchase for us, and that's going to be really exciting with the hopes that they're actually having their first meeting and they're starting to be built now. So they should be here, we're hoping by this time next year, they'll be in Orange County and in service. So that's a really big deal.
You're gonna keep the 412s also?
And we are going to keep the 2 412s. Yeah, that way we keep 2 helicopters, just for your awareness. We keep 2 helicopters in service every day, 365 days a year. So to keep 1 in service, you need at least 3. So to keep 2 in service, 4 makes sense. But yeah, this is a big move for us, and it'll be really good for the whole region, really.
I got one other thing.
Sure.
Hot diggity. December 1st. Let's see. I walked with Kyle Kroger to look at mass care sites, evacuation sites, city-owned rather than school district stuff. And we identified 3 possible locations. One was the Aquatic Center, the other one is Community Center next to the library, and the third is the Boys and Girls Club. They have a huge place. If you've never been there, it's surprising. It doesn't look like that from the street. Anyway, so we suggested let's informally have the Red Cross representative, which we are, Dave Adams, come over and walk with us again and just say, from your perspective, before we get down the road, because they have to be designated by whoever owns these things in the city, that will be the mass care casual center. So coming up on December 1st, we're going to walk those sites with Dave Adams and check for suitability before we go to the next step. Just asking the city council, say, hey, we recommend that. So there's where we are on that. Thank you.
Nick, would emergency management be involved in those site surveys at all?
Well, emergency management, as in Jacob Green folks?
Yeah, right.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Yeah, just thinking about where those sites are, like the Boys and Girls Club particularly jumps out at me as being closer to the beach. So, like, in the event of a tsunami or some sort of tidal surge, it might.
That'd be the best.
Right, but I'm only asking. I'm not trying to poke holes in your sites. I'm only asking because that emergency management field looks at all those blind spots that we as lay people don't think of.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will reach out and see if they'll join us on this little kind of informal walkthrough and say, yeah, okay, yeah, not, whatever. So
When you talked about that, the aquatic center, I mean, it's high ground. It's got La Pata, can come in the back end. It's not that far from the freeway, and that seems like a really good site for something. Oh, but Red Cross people, emergency people will figure it out.
Usually the Red Cross brings in a trailer truckload of cots and blankets and food and all that stuff. So it's quite an interesting thing. But the nailing down the sites is the next thing, because you just don't go out there and say, we got a disaster, we're going to evacuate to, well, all this has to be in place before we can actually do that.
Right.
That's what we're doing now.
What about the city golf course as a possibility? Did you mention that one?
No,
That's a large area for sure.
it is a large area. I just, and it's on the south end of it too.
Yeah.
So, and it's owned by the city.
Yeah.
Sure.
And by the way, I'll just jump in here now. Since we're going to be not meeting in December, this next 2 months might be a great time to get together with your subcommittees and start really strategizing what we're going to, hit and formulating a plan for each of our, subcommittees. So that's just a suggestion, but that's what I'm planning to do with Scott and Mike anyway, get together and figure out how we're really gonna tackle these challenges on our work plan, so. Okay. Oh, sure.
You know, Nick, you brought up a word that we just kind of brushed right by, but where I used to live, we had an incredible CERT program. And Chief, I don't know, up there, LAFD put on the classes, and are you folks putting on CERT classes down here?
We do have certain programs down here throughout the county.
I mean, that's an invaluable aid in every neighborhood. Every neighborhood should have one or two, CERT qualified people. And when you do the classes, are they like the 8 weeks, 1 night a week, or?
To be honest, I gotta look into how we run the CERT classes. I wouldn't be able to speak.
Yeah, if you would, let me know. And
But I will.
also, what do you provide the graduates? Our neighborhood council would supplement the packages they got from LAFD. I think they got their green hat and their green vest and a few rudimentary tools, and we would give them extra tools and first aid kits and stuff to carry with them. So you let me know, because tell you what, if you're hurt, somebody in a green hat shows up, they know how to tape you up if the fire department can't get there. So.
Now, let me throw in a little bit. Jacob Green has a unit that handles that's our contractor for emergency preparedness and disaster responses and stuff. They're putting plans together. They don't actually do the responses, but they put them together. Lynn Mata is the one in charge of volunteer services, and that's who's going to be making the presentation in January for CERT.
Okay.
And I think that is where the training's at, because I don't know if I think the city does their own on this rather than the fire department. So that's why it might be a little hesitant on that.
Good.
So we'll get the real story from the lady.
If I may, the city did hold our own CERT classes. The city and Public Works, we had an emergency planning coordinator up until about a year ago. To replace that position, the city elected to contract with Jacob Green and Associates. I can follow up with the Public Works Director, because I believe that the CERT is still under Public Works. To what extent it's active right now, I'm not sure, but I can follow up on that. But it has been a city service, and I have not heard that it was transferred to OCFA or OCSD to handle.
There you go.
Yeah, I believe we do not. Throughout the county, I don't believe we handle it, but we
Right.
support it as a good program throughout the county.
Yeah, in LA County, which we're familiar with, the fire department handles that. And, LA County Fire Department does the CERT training for all the contract cities and stuff like that. Orange County's, every jurisdiction has their own little thing going, so we're all learning on that.
Anything else on disaster preparedness?
I have something that I did too, I'd like to just report on here. This is an alternative to providing emergency food like Juan showed there in one of his videos and so forth. But basically, the human being needs about 1,500 calories a day to survive. Some people need more, some people need less. Need about half a gallon of water, just to stay alive, not including the water you needed for personal health issues and things like that. But in looking on the internet, the preppers, they have dry food like preparednesshub.com. A 12-month supply of dry food needs water to reconstitute costs $2,000. The population of St. Helena in 2020 was 64,293 persons. Probably changed a little bit. times $2,000 per year. If the city was to provide every resident with a 12-month supply of dried food, it would cost $128,586,000. That's a tremendous amount of money. If you put that on a daily basis by dividing by 365 days, it gets it down to $352,290,000 per day.
And that's without the water.
That, well, yeah, and that's without the water now. So that 12 months is probably too much. So, but the Red Cross recommends having an emergency supply of a minimum of 3 days. So if you take those numbers and extrapolate them to 3 days of food, it's about $1,339,432. That's what the city would have to come with to supply everybody in San Clemente with 3 days of food. That's a lot of money. The water then, 1 gallon per person, 64,000 people, that's 64,000 gallons of water
Per day.
per day. It's 193, 3 times that would be, for example, a fire tender carries water about 1,000 gallons or something like that. For 3 days, we need 193 deliveries from your fire tenders for the water to handle the entire population. Or, since you said the Firehawks carry 1,000 gallons now, they would have 193 flights coming in, about 90 flights a day, just to bring water in for everybody in here. That's a lot of money, and I guess my recommendation on that basically would be from the Public Safety Committee that we should encourage folks to get their own 3-day supply of food. That would cost it's somewhere between $200 and $300 for a 3-day supply. You can get large tanks, 5-gallon tanks that will contain potable water. It'll last 5 or 6 months if you put a little bit of chlorine in it. So I think from that point of view, I mean, it's fine to put used food and things in storage and all that, but it's probably going to serve very few people relative to the total population of San Clemente.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? We'll move on to the homelessness and dust management. Okay, just a couple of things. First, an update. Last meeting, we had a couple of members of the Human Affairs Committee and speak on a few issues, but one of the things was the RVs parked up in the business park and the issue up there. I did get a report back from Captain Benfield, and they did write approximately 30 citations for longevity of parking or whatever up there, and it did help. It cleaned it out a lot. I know Code went up there and did some work. I saw some signs up and some things, talking about the parking, whatever. And when I drove around up there a couple of weeks ago, there was like one RV up there, and they were trying to get it running so they could actually move it. So it looks like that issue was addressed by Code and OCSD, and that's pretty nice. Also, Charlie and I had a conversation before the meeting that Governor Newsom's decided to release that $1 billion in homeless relief funds. And I'm hoping that our local legislators are all over that for Orange County. This looks like a great opportunity to maybe get some money to address our regional shelter in South Orange County, which we need desperately, and maybe some mental health issues. Or the mental health treatment, which they've also with the CARE Act that Governor Newsom signed. And so this is going to be something I think the new council will probably address, but at our meeting in January, if it doesn't look like they have it or talking about it on the agenda, I am looking into maybe bringing it up here, that we recommend maybe on one of these urgent memos that they get online to start, get gathering troops to put in for some of this money. This might be a one-time opportunity to really make a dent in it. So again, I'll bring that back in January, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. In the meantime, if they're addressing it, then great. So That's that for homelessness. Legislative review. Want to get together with Scott. I was going to ask staff here, because Scott, you mentioned about you had a little experience in grant writing in the past. And I wonder if it's in our purview, if we investigated some possible grant that might be available for helping things like staffing, and I don't know what specifically right now, but it could be a myriad of things. It could be code enforcement, it could be a lot of things that help us do that. If we identified possible grant money, would that be something that we could forward to the city council saying, here, we've looked into this, and this might be something that we think the city staff should look into? Because I know we do have grant writers in the city, but I know they don't have a ton of time to investigate every kind of possible grant. So would that be something that maybe would be applicable?
Absolutely. I think depending on the type of funding opportunity would dictate whether it's something that would need to go to council for approval to initiate. Some of these grants can require outside firms to help us write grants. Some grants the city staff does write ourselves. So on a case-by-case basis, we would find that we would love to have this information, and especially to have some additional eyes on it. And then we can work with the committee to identify the best way forward.
Oh, good. Well, again, I'd like to go with Scott in the next couple of months and talk about and the legislative review part. I've been doing the police stuff, but we've got to get Scott involved on. We can see there's a lot of legislation that comes up with the fire side of it. I think it'll be informative for the committee, so that's what I plan on doing. And if you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
That sounds
Well,
great.
actually, yeah, earlier on, I've looked at the kinds of grants that are available for these kinds of things, and there's a myriad of government organizations. In my prior life, I was able to get a couple $1 million for a fire station, hundreds of thousands of dollars for new firefighters to bring training up and so forth. There is just a tremendous amount of money out there, Scott, you probably will know. And the grants aren't that difficult to write. They usually come with instructions, and
They're not difficult to write. They can be difficult to manage and report on because they want to know where their money's going and what they're getting out of
The
it.
follow-up.
once you
When
get
you're buying stuff,
Yeah.
it's easy for that stuff to get out into the wind, and then now you don't have accountability for it, and now people are asking questions about where's my thing that I bought you. They're all very solvable problems,
Right.
The application is actually the easy part. It's the management on the back
Well,
end.
the application and then actually winning them is probably, I'd love to handle the problems you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'd like to, expand on that and just take a look and see if there are resources. So that's what I plan on doing. Neighborhood Watch. So it's great news that the website is up, and so now we can actually. I'd like, and if nobody has any issues with this, I've talked to SC Times, Sean Ramundo, numerous times, and he's willing to do like an article on it in the SC Times and talk about a little bit how you get involved in this and all that. If nobody has a problem with it, I'd like to go ahead and proceed with that and see if he can get that in the newspaper sooner than later, so we can start on that. At the crime town hall we had several people come up and leave their names and phone numbers who want to get involved, and I'm going to be passing those on to Mike, who's going to be contacting those people because he's a marketing magnet, and and then of course the HOAs is the big thing. That's 30% of the city of San Clemente, and all we have to do is contact those people. That's built in. So I think in the next couple of months, by the time we come back in January, we're going to have a really nice update and a lot of progress made. So
Like on that, Bill Hanrahan, if you recall, talked about some of the communication technique and methods that we have here in media. In addition to the HOAs, I belong to the Coast update, and we get all that local information. I think if you could add that into your neighborhood watch planning, that map, the different kinds of neighborhood, I don't know what you call them, chat rooms or whatever, but that would really help a lot. And that's something that's really new. And I don't know if too many neighborhood watch organizations use that yet, but it's certainly something I think would add a lot of value to what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, because having, monthly meetings is problematic sometimes now, and getting a deputy to go to every meeting, it just doesn't happen. They don't have the manpower, so social media and using that's gonna be a huge part. We plan on having a link on the city website. The sheriffs will be putting up something once a month on crime prevention or whatever, where you can go on that and you can just look at it, so that will be a component of it, absolutely.
And do they have like a next door app down here?
They do.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to get it out too. Hey, we're looking for neighborhood watch captains. Just contact Mike Greenwald and we'll get you set up.
And we'll get it on crime and safety. I think Nick was able to, did you finally get it hooked into crime and safety?
I gotta figure out how to work it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Because there's 4,000 people on the San Clemente Crime and Safety page here on Facebook, and a lot of information comes out quickly. It's a really good one, and we'll get it out on that too, and that will help. So it should. I'm looking for a pretty organic way of releasing this, and I think it's going to be successful. Okay, statistical information review. Got Nick and Scott working on that.
We're going to have,
Well, yeah,
Staff
we kind
will
of-
be providing
yeah,
information.
exactly.
I'll work with the subcommittee on that to discuss rolling that information out over the next few months.
Great. Human trafficking, I'll get back with Brenda Wells from the I-5 Freedom Network and see what she thinks about actually starting this award program. I think that's where we're at in this now, is getting the awards out to the participating hotels and see where she's at. And when we need awards, we've got a little budget for that, and we can get something going with that. And it was a great town hall. I know I talked about this last time, the great town hall we had on it, and a lot of interest. And I think we've made some great strides from when you and I started a year ago on the thing. I think it's a great program, and we'll just continue to give updates on that. E-bike safety, that Charlie and Scott.
Well, I really haven't done a whole lot on that. Basically, just keep my eye open of e-bikes, riders in my neighborhood, and when I drive around, I have a motor scooter and an e-bike, and that's why I kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And frankly, it seems like I don't really see too many young people that are violating laws. They seem to be fairly aware. They are young and exuberant, and they do wheelies and things like that on streets, but occasionally I guess there are some severe things. But I think, again, Scott, what we need to concentrate on is the education of the kids in schools, the middle school.
Yeah.
Get them there, because that's when they have the e-bikes. And I went to Shorecliff's middle school and watched them at 3 o'clock when school was let out. Literally tens, maybe 30, 40 e-bikes coming down the street, intermingled with all the traffic, moms and dads picking the kids up. And what's kind of funny, it's right in front of the Department of Motor Vehicles, and nobody stops at the stop sign right across the way. They just go right on through there. So I think one of the things that we need to do is talk to some of the school principals and see what they think they can do to educate the children there that do ride e-bikes. That would be the place to start. The adults, I don't know if we can do anything with adults on e-bike safety. It's a whole different matter. Trying to change their behavior, and so it's like bicycle riders. It's just, I don't know if that's actually a doable thing, but certainly I think the importance of educating children, young men and women, on how to ride e-bikes safely is something that we should be one of our goals on this committee.
Sure, absolutely. And I think you and I need to talk offline about that more, because it's a very visible issue here in town, but it's not isolated to here, and it's all up and down the state. And it's funny that you mentioned the DMV. It probably, if we really wanted to address it globally, it would involve the DMV, and it would involve some sort of licensing, and it would involve some sort of laws and enforcement, and that's not going to happen here in this committee, but we can investigate that and make recommendations up. And I'm sure that the city has lobbyists and people who talk to county level and state level legislators, and that's probably where this thing needs to expand out to. I would love to solve this problem by going down and talking to Principal Smith and down at Shorecliffs or wherever, but I don't see, I think it's a way bigger issue. I don't want to say problem, a way bigger issue than that.
Well, the state did start to address it. Lori Davies, she did pass the Assembly Bill 1338, I think it was. And what that did, it enlarged the responsibility for laws associated with electric bikes from just law enforcement to schools or to other agencies like the city of San Clemente, for example. They could then be funded to implement these kinds of programs in addition to law enforcement. So it is getting attention up there, and there would be money available, especially when we probably should talk to Lori Davies or other representatives about that once we get some good ideas on what we need to do here.
For sure.
And you might want to contact a new elected city council person, Mark Enmeyer, who's a teacher at the high school, and he's really passionate about e-bike safety, and he would probably be a great liaison with the school to kind of help you out in that way. So I think he's moving that direction anyway. So I think he'd be a great resource for that.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
And if I could just add, Chair, the City Council has heard a number of reports from staff and representatives, a representative from the Public Safety Committee on e-bikes specifically. They've requested this information. As part of the work plan that they just approved, the committee is charged with reviewing the issue of e-bikes and bringing recommendations back to the City Council. My recommendation to staff would be that's a high priority item. Regardless of what the eventual recommendations are, I know that this is something that has been very important to the council, and any information that would help, identify opportunities to address this issue locally, staff is here to support you on that.
And also, you might look, 28 states have actually age restrictions on e-bikes, and I know we can't have a city age restriction, but if we at least make the council aware of that, then they have ways of contacting, or making recommendations or getting together other cities that might be able to lobby the state to look at the same kind of thing, through the vehicle code. So they might look into that. It's really interesting. I didn't realize that we had so many other states that from 14 to 18 in Ohio, you got to be 18 in Ohio to ride an e-bike. I mean, that's pretty. I don't think we need quite that much, but they have looked at younger ages, and anyway, it's something to look at.
Right. The other, besides just the states and the United States, France, England, China, all those, Italy, all those people are way ahead of us in regulating electric bikes, electric cars. So we need to kind of look even beyond our shores and see what those folks have come up with too.
Yep.
The other minor side issue is enforcement. And we still are, we've got city ordinances on the beach trail and all that, but there's no enforcement, and they're buzzing up and down.
And another thing you might look at on this, because we talked about this a while back when I was on the e-bike thing, is the city is interested also in regulating riding on the sidewalk, maybe in our T-zone, because the city has no regulation on riding bikes on sidewalks. A lot of cities do. And of course, it's not practical to say you can't ride a bike on any sidewalk. You go to the rural areas of the city, it should be on the sidewalks. But the T-zone down on Del Mar, when it's crowded and all that, I think they were really kind of interested in looking at that as maybe having specific an area downtown where e-bikes weren't allowed on sidewalks. That would be another thing that I think they're interested in. And enforcement-wise, I will tell you that since school started, it looks the situation has really gotten better because kids are in school; they're not out riding their e-bikes. And also, I think they towed like a dozen Serrans, which was the big issue. That aren't really e-bikes; they're electric dirt bikes, and that was a big thing too. That racing around, and you don't hardly see those around now. So they've done some selective enforcement. I think has really, really, really helped. So. Great. Okay, technology review, Nick and Charlie.
Well, I'll Charlie, what do you have to say?
I was gonna say, now we get new city council members, I think we should really hit this a little bit harder than we have been doing. Bill Clippinger, I guess, has some ideas. I'd like to see us implement those emergency radio communication systems that he's proposed. And yeah, I think I've certainly been remiss in not addressing that because some of the other things that pulled me aside on this job. So what do you think?
There's technology out there, but it's tough to, I go through a journal, FBI journal, and they always have vendors who are throwing out stuff, and it just doesn't seem like some of this stuff is pertinent to us. I know Flock is a big one that we've been working on, but I'm still looking at new technologies and things that could help the police, fire, whatever. And one of those technologies is those Firehawks. I mean, it's a major thing that other people are using very, very successfully. They're very expensive, but they're very successful. So.
And that might be another area where grants, I mean, it just seems like, God, there should be grants for cameras in the city. I mean, we had to scrape up some money for a few cameras, but I'll bet there's some money out there for things like that. And we could just identify that. Would be huge.
What's OCFC doing on electric fire engines and fire trucks? Do you have any idea? That's pretty advanced. In Europe, they're taking the lead there. They actually have them on duty now over there in England because their streets are a lot smaller and narrower. So there's a real driving requirement for smaller vehicles like that. But I would think something like that, a sustainable fire engine or fire truck would be something to look into.
Yeah, we, as far as I know, have not looked into moving towards those yet. I know LA City, I believe,
LA City
has
just
put one
launched one.
service. So that's good. That's something that all agencies are watching and looking at. We're definitely watching to see how that goes. And I'm sure it's the way of the future.
Do you know why LA adopted that or did that?
They just got some money, probably on a grant, and they bought one.
Okay.
So let the big ones make all the mistakes and we'll watch, right? It's a lot cheaper this way. They can spread their funds out. We're limited on this stuff. Now, I saw another application. These are buses, but it's the same electric vehicle with a fuel cell, and it's hydrogen powered.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's all sorts of stuff out there doing it. But I know that the electrified fire one has a generator backup because you just can't.
Well, I think the pump is also gas operated.
Yeah, so it's.
Well, I mean, it's a lot.
Let's watch and see what happens.
So then you got to have
technology.
But it's a beautiful fire truck.
Yeah.
Go online and look.
Nice
I mean,
red.
that's beautiful.
Shiny red.
And Scott, we could even track that one.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be hard to lose.
Okay, any urgent matters? We talked about maybe something coming up in January, maybe, but anything else that anybody?
I have one that kind of ties together with, and I'll tie it back to statistical information and review, and to tie into something that Charlie mentioned, and that is having statistical reports that are timely and accurate and flexible enough to address current and topical matters. And Chief, you and I both know that the amount of data points that are collected on any incident in 2022 are 4 times as many as they were when we started in the late 90s, right?
Right.
So it's all data. And 10 years ago, we started to follow the data and follow the science regarding CPR. And we changed the way that we trained and administered CPR and saw huge gains from that, right? Our ROSC rates went through the roof when we finally realized how we should be doing CPR. And that was all driven by data. The city that I work in right now is having the city that I work in, the big issue that we're addressing is fentanyl. poisonings. We're a 50 square mile city. We have roughly 250,000 people, and we are getting 3 to 4 fentanyl deaths a day. We're killing literally thousands of people a year from fentanyl. I hope that we don't have that problem here. I hope that we never have that problem here, but it's going to be something that we're going to need to track and we're going to need to stay in front of. And if that's something that we can capture through data management from our partners at OCFA and at OC Sheriffs, it's something that we can stay in front of. We got behind the information curve a little bit in Ontario, and now we're getting back in front of it, and we're actually implementing a program where our paramedics will start leaving behind Narcan for fentanyl poisonings, and it's just administered at the citizen level. Our cops have been carrying Narcan for 5 or 6 years. So anyway, that's a long way of saying I think that's an urgent matter, and it ties into our statistical information and review, and I hope that we can work with our partners to maintain visibility to that and whatever other emerging topics come down the line. We are far from our old CFRS reports on a green screen, right, that had about 6 data points and you didn't really know what you were reporting. Like we can grab our data and finite it down to very specific data points.
That's a good point. And fentanyl is in the city. I know there's a person's very close to me. I know Adam knows him also, whose wife overdosed on fentanyl and died just about 3 weeks ago. And it's every place for sure. And I think that is an urgent topic. And maybe at our next meeting we come back with some data or whatever, and to send a memo out to the city council, just reminding the new city council. That's the other thing is, we're in a transition. I think the January meeting would be a good one, maybe to come with some information, just to send it off to remind them that we're having this issue in the high school, and maybe do some research with the high school and see because I know they have had some issues with that even in high school. And remind them that it is a public emergency.
Yeah, and it's so pervasive.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, good. That's a great point. I think that would be a really pertinent one to bring that shows that we're on the current level of trying to remind them, not just the long-term level on our work plan, but there are emergencies that come up. So I'd be all for that if you guys want to discuss that in January.
Yeah, geez. Yeah, with 2 kids a day just in your city.
Just in our city, we're getting anywhere, we average probably 3 a day. And it's everywhere from, it's early teenagers to well older than all of us. And it takes so little, and there is such a, it takes so little fentanyl to poison you, and it is so pervasive. It's just in everything. People are making, there's pill mills in garages. People are thinking that they're buying this thing to keep them up so they can study for finals, and then that's got fentanyl, and it takes so little fentanyl to get you. And, back when I was working as a medic, you would give someone 2 of Narcan, and they would start to come around, and you'd give them another 2 more, and they would be talking like you and me, and that was in heroin days. In fentanyl days, we're giving people 12 and 14 milligrams of Narcan just to get them to start breathing again. And that's just how, and that's if you can get them to breathe, right? That's how powerful that drug is.
And in the majority of cases, the people think they're buying something else.
Right, for
sure. They're buying Adderall, a myriad of things. They're not saying, I want to buy fentanyl. They know that's dangerous, so they're buying other drugs that cocaine and heroin, and it's laced in everything. So
people buy something on the street.
Okay, so now we come to the reports, committees, and staff. We have police services who aren't here, and I might be remiss because I had this discussion with Nick a few days ago, and I thought it was kind of common knowledge, but maybe it's not. But now it is. Tony is leaving us. Captain Benfield has been promoted, and he will be leaving us the first of the year. too bad. You know, he's a great guy. The notice has been out for applicants to apply here. They waited till after, I think, Laguna and Niguel had theirs. They wanted to wait till after they picked their person, so those applicants could apply down here if they chose. Tony says that there's a couple of great candidates that he's really, really excited about. So I guess they're going to set up interviews at some point and interview a few of these people and see. But it's unfortunate the level of police services that went so quickly when he became our captain here was just incredible. Great guy, but he'll be gone first part of January do some transition first part of January. Then he'll be head of investigations for OCSD, which is a big deal. And the best part is he drives from Corona and he only has to drive to Santa Ana now. He doesn't have to drive to San Luis. So that's the best part for him. So anyway, I'm sure he'll be at our next meeting. And well, no, that's right. We're meeting in January. I think he'll come back to the meeting. I'll try to get him to come back
I'm sure he will want to come down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to take the meeting. So anyway, there's that from police services. So fire services, Chief Mall.
Thank you. Let's see, we've had some fire weather over this last week or two. With more coming this week, we've done a lot of upstaffing. So in the recent, with this weather coming, we've upstaffed extra helicopters, hand crews, strike teams. So I imagine we'll be looking to do that again this week. Fortunately, with the rain and stuff, nothing has really happened within the region, but that's a good thing. We spoke about the Firehawks. That is a big move for the OCFA, and it's going to be a really good asset for the whole county for sure. With those, we are looking at some places here in San Clemente to set up some. We received some funding from Director Bartlett for setting up what's called helipods. So essentially, they're portable fire hydrants for a helicopter to dip out of. So we're looking some places around here to try and strategically place those. What it does is typically a helicopter has to go find a water reservoir or a lake, and down here they're a little bit further away. And so to get the helicopters back on scene quickly, the more you can have water points around the county, the quicker they can work. So that'll be a really good thing. More information coming on that as we line out positions. We participated in Firefighter of the Year award ceremony with the San Clemente Exchange Club last week, which was really great. One of our fire captains on Engine 50 here in San Clemente received that, Corey Larson. So that was a really great ceremony there. He's an outstanding captain, a lot of wildland time. He's done a million things in his career, so that was a great deal. As far as performance measures, as we were speaking to it is easy, and I will go back and look into fentanyl within, because we can easily track those things. But we are doing a lot more performance measures, looking at new data tracking for response times. We're really tracking ambulance response times throughout the entire county right now. So watching those really closely as well. And then we are actually tracking all the e-bike accidents that happen. It's big. So I believe in October alone in San Clemente we had 6. So there are a decent amount of e-bike accidents as well as fires. You know, NFPA has a website now dedicated to the fire danger that can come from the e-bikes and the charging the batteries. Mm-hmm. Myself alone, I've been on 5 garage fires just in this area that were e-bikes. When those batteries go, they really put out an impressive flame. So that's just another piece of the e-bikes to be thinking about, not only riding them around, but the fire safety with that as well.
What do you suggest on that? Is removing the batteries and storing them outside or something?
So, yeah, that's kind of what everybody's trying to figure out. I would just recommend, my own family, for my kids' e-bikes, we charge them outside, away from everything. What we see is, when they're in the garage charging, which is typically what people will do, when those batteries light off, if there's anything nearby, it gets that stuff going. So I would say if you're going to charge them inside, make sure there's nothing combustible around them. But it is a piece that we're tracking for sure, the accidents and the fires from e-bikes.
Is it during charging or any time?
Typically during the charging cycle. Okay. Yeah, the batteries, depending on who makes the e-bike and things like that, some are more susceptible, but we're definitely seeing a lot of them.
Just out of curiosity, like in an HOA, all right, they can't really charge them outside because they really don't have any outside area. What do you suggest for people in an HOA to charge them and then take the battery out, or what?
Yeah, I would suggest, I'm not a real expert on the charging, but I think safety-wise, if you're charging them with nothing around, in case the battery actually catches fire and you don't have anything around it, it won't light off. So if you have a place to charge it like that, and not overcharging them, sometimes they can sit plugged in charging for days and days, and if you've ever felt one of those batteries, they warm up pretty good if they're plugged in for a long period of time. So, so for my family, as soon as it's charged, we unplug it just to be safe. But just definitely monitor it. Maybe not overnight as well. You know, a lot of these fires happen at night, and it typically starts in the garage, and people are woken up to their garage on fire. So,
And again, how many have we responded to here in San Clemente?
I'd have to pull full statistics to find out, but just me myself, which I'm only one person, and I'm not working on a battalion chief vehicle anymore. I've been on 5 of them, and that's over the last year probably.
Okay.
So they're happening more frequently, for sure.
Thank you.
Could you, when you look into it, try and find out the cause, because the e-bikes have what's called a BMS, the battery management system, inside. It's electronics that monitors the currents going through all the batteries. And it should shut off the current from the charger when it detects an anomalous cell. When the cell is pulling too much current, getting hot, and ready to explode. So I'm surprised that you're seeing this, because that system is supposed to prevent that sort of thing. Now, it could be that these are cheap batteries and they're from overseas, and somebody has left out the proper piece of hardware in there because it saved them a couple of dollars, in the cost of the battery or something. So finding the cause would really be an important thing if you could do that.
I can see what I can find. Our investigators typically investigate and figure out if it's the e-bike itself, and we don't go too deep into that, but there is a lot of information online that I've been kind of tracking with.
Well, if you get any batteries, bring them to me, and I'll take them apart, and I'll find out what's going on.
Perfect. I'll keep you on the speed dial.
Charlie, you might be
Wait, where's Charlie?
Can he submit an overtime slip for that?
I did that actually once. I was rewiring my e-bike, and I took the wire because I wanted to put a switch in. I took a pair of dikes and cut the wire. Well, I forgot that it was connected to the battery, and it about vaporized my dikes. Scared the crap out of them.
Divots.
Don't ever do that, man.
Don't do that.
Good safety.
I'm sorry, interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And lastly, just one thing, just regionally, fire service wise, just something that would be a benefit to San Clemente specifically is Rancho Mission Viejo. We've opened a new fire station out there, and then on December 2nd, we're putting another truck company at Station 56, which is La Pata and Ortega. So it's actually a real quick shot over to here. It's a benefit here because we'll get a second truck into this part of San Clemente pretty quickly now, as opposed to the other ones are coming Laguna Niguel and coming down the freeway from Mission Viejo. So that's going to be a really nice asset to have here, and that goes into service December 2nd. And that is all I have.
I had a couple of questions and a statement.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on the Firehawks. That's awesome. That's a great ad. Absolutely industry standard. I think Santa Barbara and South, and it's good to see us there in the fight. Is the QRF still under contract?
So the QRF is still under contract. So
Wait, time out.
Want to know what the QRF is?
That would be.
So the QRF is essentially it's funded by Edison, so the California Edison.
What's the acronym stand for?
Quick Reaction Force.
Oh,
they stole it
That's
from
what
the
we're looking
military.
Yeah.
Always old, and truth be told. But in essence, it's funded by Southern California Edison. The QRF itself is 3 large helicopters. So we have Orange County for a long time, and we'll again have the CH-47. That sits in Orange County. Then LA County also has a CH-47. And then Santa Barbara has always had an S-61, which drops 1,000 gallons, kind of like the Blackhawk. The intent of the QRF is it's kind of a regional asset that as soon as a fire launches, these big heli tankers will essentially respond to the fire as well, all throughout Orange County, LA County. Just in Orange County, every time we have a vegetation fire, we launch that big one, and it drops 3,000 gallons, just perspective-wise. It's pretty incredible. So it's a great asset to have. The QRF for the last few years has only been in service during fire season, so like July to December typically, but it is being renewed to be a year-round asset. So starting in January, it's going to go to our board, I believe, this month. Actually, I think it went the other night. Anyhow, it'll be a year-round asset that we will have here in Orange County. So it's QRF is a really good tool.
Is the funding the same? I'm sorry.
The funding, yeah, still from Edison. The dollar amount's much higher that they're going to be giving to that.
Okay, but that's just to have them on standby. When you deploy them, then that agency has to pick up the tab, right?
Yeah, typically if they deploy and it's like a local jurisdiction, it would be an agency that would pick it up. But most of these fires that they're responding to and dropping water, the cost, they do cost reimbursement and things like that from the state. So most of it's paid for by that. But Edison's paying for their standby rate, and when they launch to a fire, then the funds come from the government. Yeah, it's a really good question.
You had something else also?
That's all based out of Fullerton?
So no, there is our helicopters actually at Los Alamitos. We can't fit it at Fullerton.
Okay.
We tried to land it at Fullerton Airport, which is where our other helicopters are, and it pretty much destroys the airport because it's a big helicopter coming in there. So yeah, we keep that at Los Alamitos. We do have an aerial platform. We have a smaller helicopter that's part of the QRF. It's for aerial supervision. Mm-hmm. That one stays in Fullerton, all as part of the QRF as well.
When we get these wind events and you're upstaffing, and I imagine you're probably upstaffing through the holiday with the predicted weather.
Yeah, that's correct.
Do we ever reposition aviation assets down to John Wayne or anywhere a little closer down here?
Yeah, we do. Every time that there's any kind of fire weather, even if we're not upstaffing, we move one of our helicopters to John Wayne. So that way we're coming out of Fullerton and John Wayne to kind of hit all parts. We have in the past, and it's a big option that we like to use when it's real good fire weather. And when we had 3 helicopters, we put one on the ground here at Station 59 before as well. So that's another thing. And as we're looking at areas to, like you mentioned, that wildland fire facility, we're trying to get that down this way somewhere. That would be something that would be there, give us another place that we could leave a helicopter during the day for fire weather and things like that. So that is something we're looking at. But we do deploy them throughout the county as best we can. It's just hard to find places for them to sit.
And they do drops at night now too, the QRF, right? Which is kind of different than past.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we've been dropping at night for a long time. Other agencies, local government, have been dropping at night. LA County, LA City, CAL FIRE is coming on board with dropping at night. But for these big heli tankers, they're kind of the first to be doing the dropping at night with that 3,000 gallons. They also, sorry, I'm talking for a long time, but it's interesting, I guess. They also have the ability to drop fire retardant. So typically if you're watching a fire and you see the big planes drop the red retardant, these QRF helicopters drop retardant as well, and they can do that at night. And they've done that in some fires in Northern California over the last year, and it's actually really nice, because the fire typically calms down at night, so you can make some good progress with those ones working at night that are supporting it with water. So.
Stay away from black stuff, though.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and my favorite, marine services.
Well, welcome everybody. So down at the beach, we've seen a gamut of everything. Rain, high winds, cold weather. Now we have the Santa Anas. So we've had temperatures ranging from 52, air temperatures to 73. Water temperature dropped down just before tryouts. Unfortunately, it was at 70, it dropped down to 57 with those winds. So it was kind of a bummer for the candidates that showed up a week later. But it did jump up from 57 to 62. So with that said, we had a successful tryout. Lowest number in number of years I've worked there, but really excited about those who did try out. We have 12 that have been invited to our Lifeguard Academy, which will start on March 4th and end on April 2nd. It's 5 consecutive weekends. So they'll go through 100 hours of training. And I'm really excited about this because we haven't had any females come on board for the last couple of years. We're down to 4 now, potentially down to 2. So we have 2 females that'll be in the Lifeguard Academy, so we're excited about that. So I feel like we're ahead of the race as far as getting the staffing that we need. Another big bonus that happened last Friday, I met with the consultant for the classic comp for the hourly part-time, so excited to have that kickoff meeting, and the end result should come out sometime at the end of February. Outside of that, let's see here, we since our last meeting, October 25th, we've had 2 rescues. One of those rescues, I happened to come to work a tad bit early, I'm kind of known for that, and the phone was ringing. And I was like, I remember years ago, you probably remember Lynn Hughes, Captain Hughes. He used to jump on him if you picked up the phone, and it's like, we're not on till 8 o'clock. And I was like, oh, I'm picking it up. Lynn Hughes is not here anymore. And luckily I did, because it was Harbor Patrol dispatch saying that there's a swimmer in distress at T Street and wanted to know if that was our jurisdiction. I said yes, and I'll run down there right away, and went down there and pulled a guy in his mid-30s. I believe he was a transient with jeans on. So whoever that person was on the beach trail or the cliff that made a call to 911, luckily, everything worked the way it was supposed to. So with that, we continue our success with no drownings. The last one in 2009, medically related. So we've had 1 medically related drowning in 43 years. So that success continues. So I'm happy to report that. Outside of that, we, if you're going down to the beach, there's been some phenomenal sunrises and sunsets. Just absolutely phenomenal. There's a Christmas tree at the end of the pier, so take a walk on the pier. They just put up Christmas lights on the street lights on the pier. And what else here? We have a WSA surf contest coming up on December 3rd and 4th. That'll be on both sides of the pier. But outside of that, I have nothing else to report. If anyone has any
You should be
questions.
complimented, because the Pure Pride jumping off the pier, that could have been Gene James jump out. I can't believe that you drug him in. We could have had a potential drowning there. I think you had 3 lifeguards and a paddleboard out there to do that, and it was good.
So you were out there, I think.
Yeah. So congratulations, job well done. Okay, so
I had a question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but will those 12 suffice for your spring? Would we need to do a spring tryout, or is that it?
The goal was to move it up. Ideally, I'd like to have it in September, October. And the goal is just to have 1 tryout. And so having 12 going into the academy, I'm more than happy with those numbers. I haven't sent out the intent to return, or it hasn't been returned back, but just based upon hearsay of those who say they're coming back and not, I think we're going to be in good shape.
Good to hear.
Great.
And there is one other ad with the pool, the AB 1267, I think it was, that allows ocean lifeguards to work at the pool, where the pool is being shut down because of the lack of pool lifeguards. There is at least 1, if not 2, that are in the works of going over there to work during part of the off season at some limited capacity. So
With the pay increase.
Yeah. Well, with being paid at Ocean Lifeguard with a 25% enhancement for working that 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday shift.
Nice. Very good.
So it's a win-win for the guard and also for the pool.
We'll go to committee comment. I've got nothing. Like I say, again, meet with your subcommittees and let's, hit the ground running in January. It's been, election year and everything. We're just kind of, hanging, but let's get busy and get our work plan rolling. So, Nick?
Not the only thing I've got is that we've got to keep our eye on this flock license plate reader issue. They were going to have this thing up and running this last week, but I haven't heard anything more on it. So now that our public works director says, hey, I'm going to personally be involved in this thing, I think we'll see some quicker action on it. So hopefully our next meeting will have some really good reports, and And when they turn it on, the system, the other cities in the county will also benefit too.
Mike?
Just enjoy being here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Scott?
Nothing except welcome, Mike.
Thanks,
Oh, I'll take this on. Yeah, that's right. This seems to get shuffled through. I did the same thing with you, but Mike Greenwald, our newest member, and he was an ad hoc member, and then we had a removal, and all of a sudden he's a full member. I will tell you, I've known Mike. Gosh, it might be 30 years now, Mike. Yeah, long.
31 years.
31. Well, you keep better track than I do. Anyway. Longtime reserve at LAPD. I ran across Mike like 30 years ago and started a great friendship. He's going to be a great member of this committee. Like I say, the guy is a networking and sales marketing guru. And for the neighborhood watch, he's going to be really the one that really gets this thing going. And so happy to have him.
Easy partner.
Hey, what is it? You're only going to disappoint everybody. Don't worry, you got to say. So anyway,
set me up for failure.
there you go. That's right. That's what I do best. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't do that earlier. Charlie.
Yeah, welcome, Mike. You're gonna enjoy it here. I don't really have nothing else to say, but Tanya, I really appreciate what you do here, getting these books together and sitting out there taking notes, and you should get some attention and
Thank
give
you.
you positive feedback.
Thanks for getting me all set up. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. Thank you.
City staff.
The only update I have is the city has hired a new code compliance manager. Her name is Guillermina Torrico. She had a wrist injury that she had a post-op procedure done and had some complications. Otherwise, she would have been here with us today. She will be with us at the January meeting, at which time I will turn this over to her as staff support for the Public Safety Committee, and I'll stay involved to the extent that I will be her direct supervisor and available to the committee for anything that they might need. But this position is designed for the code compliance manager, which she'll be taking that over. So I wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing everybody in January.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Next is adjournment. Anybody have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's January 24th, 2023 at 3 p.m. So it's going to be first meeting of the next year. Okay, thank you very much.
I have an HOA meeting to go to.
Well, that's good. Passes 5-0.